You're listening to Head Voice, bringing you inside the minds of singers and sound creators who are redefining what it means to make music with the voice. I'm Evan.
And I'm Kayla, and this week we have Ryan Hannon from the Nor'easters on. This is our 50th episode, and it was sort of a year in review since our first ever episode, which featured Ryan. Since then, a lot has happened. Ryan won Outstanding Choreo for a set at ICCA semifinals, as well as the Aca Open finals in September. Ryan is also up for a Cara for Best Mixed Collegiate Solo with Claudia for Cheyenne. And during this episode, we talked about ICCA, did a choreo and solo walkthrough of Cheyenne. We talked about his experience performing at Carnegie Hall, the Nor'easters' recent album Collective Volume 1, and their upcoming tour.
As Kayla just mentioned, the group is going on their Collective Worldwide Tour, starting this Sunday, March 4th in London, and ending at the Hong Kong International Acapella Festival, March 15th through the 29th. We highly encourage you to go if you are in either of those areas, and we will have links to all those shows in the show notes, as well as timestamps of what we talk about during the episode. We've been talking about this for weeks, but we have an ongoing giveaway of a sketch and some stickers for you. All you have to do is leave a review and rating on iTunes. We said we were going to pull it in this episode, but we're actually going to extend it for 2 more weeks to our 52nd episode. We're going to do a special extravaganza, so look out for it there. Without further ado, this week's episode with Ryan Hannon.
Hey everybody, we are here with Ryan Hannon from a year ago, and we have him back on, and we're so happy to have him back on for our 50th episode today.
Hello. It's so good to be back, and may I say it's just an honor and a privilege to be back here with you guys. I'm just so flattered, so I really appreciate being here again today.
That's
Thank
sweet.
you.
That's
We're
very
happy
sweet.
this worked out. I was looking at the calendar too, and apparently we recorded your original episode February 21st, which was just a couple days ago, which is so weird to think it's been a
mind-blowing.
year. But we're stoked to have you back on, and we're in the same place in the same little attic. Probably in the same seats too.
Yeah.
I feel like we might have
surprised.
been like this.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you for coming on. So a lot has happened since last we
yes.
had you on. I
Mhm.
think we just listened to it, and in the last episode you were kind of just gearing up for ICCA, and that was all coming together. And we kind of talked about how you were working on choreo and solos and whatnot. And I think in the last episode you said something like, "Oh yeah, we're working on choreo, but we're not the best." And
and we never win an award for
we'll never win an
choreo.
award. And then you go to your ICCA and win the outstanding choreo award, which
At
is
semis,
incredible.
yeah.
Semifinals, yes. Mhm.
So I guess that's a while ago now for you. That was in
Yeah,
April.
that must have been April.
Yeah.
But what was nice is not to brag, but we were also fortunate enough to win the same award at the Aca Open competition at Carnegie
right.
Hall. We
Uh-huh.
won Best Choreo as well, which was so unexpected and
Yeah.
also just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But we've come quite far, I'd say, just in our choreo and as musicians, and it's been a year. It's been a journey, I have to say.
So that wasn't your first ICCA go around. So what was this particular experience in 2017 like for you?
Right. So I think every ICCA really, you could be, so accomplished. You can have been tried ICCA every year, but every time you compete, it's so different. It always
Mhm.
depends on your group. It depends on who you surround yourself
Yeah.
with. It depends on the songs you're performing, and it's always different. It's always stressful. Don't get me wrong. It's
Mhm.
always
A lot of planning.
trepidation there, a lot of planning. But in particular, this past cycle was so rewarding and such a positive experience,
Mhm.
because I think ICCA can at times put the group in a pressure cooker.
Right.
They spend a lot of time with each other. It can be just so much pressure,
Yeah.
so intense. And this, you go around, everyone was so supportive, so loving, and there was so little drama, and we all just came together as a family and as a team, and it came out in our music and in our choreography and in our set, and it made all of our accomplishments so much more worthwhile
Yeah.
in the end, because we were a unit, and there was it was a very positive experience. So
Right.
it was wonderful this time
That's so
around.
awesome. Yeah.
I was gonna say this particular set for y'all, I feel like was noteworthy in that it I think was more overtly a story set than like the group had kind of done before. What was kind of the thought process of, putting it together?
So we really changed. We added a bunch of songs, and obviously removed some and changed the order, and added a whole new choreo between quarterfinals and semifinals. We really did a huge overhaul of the set, and so all that story kind of came together by accident. If those who've seen it, there's this Cheyenne character, and myself and Clau and Anthony are these kind of individuals that are woven throughout, and it all just kind of stumbled into place. Musically, the arrangements kind of interwove with each other, but I think for the first time, and something that I'm really happy I experienced with, and I think is a great tip for choreographers out there. You know how in music you reference desk and you reference other songs in your set, and
especially
it makes it cohesive.
Yeah,
we tend to do that frequently. I think this is one of the first times that we tried to do the same with our choreography, and that was an active choice that we made. Or we tried to, as the set went on, weave in certain moves, the characters, and all that jazz. And a lot of groups have done this in the past, and it's certainly nothing new to the community, but it was something I think that we really tried to apply for the first time to our set, and it really made the set so cohesive, such a narrative. It helped us connect more with it, I think, as well. And it came out in the end, and it was really fun to play around with that idea and concept, both musically and with choreography, to make that happen.
Right. That totally makes sense. So we kind of mentioned this earlier before we started, but we wanted to do a sort of walkthrough of Cheyenne. So we can play some parts from it, and you can just talk through it. But just from a solo standpoint, because you are soloing with Claudia on that, and then also you did the choreo for that. So if there's anything that comes to mind, or any background you have for the song or the solo, that'd be awesome to hear from your perspective.
Cheyenne, Cheyenne.
So, wow. We haven't been sung that in a while.
Jogging back memories.
Yeah, listening to that again, you're taken right back. I get the butterflies again, because that's, the opener to our set. And it's crazy just being taken back there. This song was so fun to sing. It's so high energy and kind of sexy, and there's just a lot of moving parts. And so to choreography wise and soloing wise, it was just such a joy to be part of that experience. And then Clau is a powerhouse. She was a freshman at the time, and it's just what a privilege to be able to sing with her in this song as well. I'm kind of speechless. But the choreo, I mentioned it earlier with you guys, but so we had our quarterfinals, and then only a handful of weeks before semis, and in between that we had our spring break, and we quickly learned Cheyenne right before spring break, and I think got one performance of it in just through one of our Northeastern Blackman shows. And for my own schedule, I thought, okay, I have to teach at least once fully the choreography for Cheyenne before we go on spring break. We won't have enough time to get the rest of our set done after we returned. And so I remember I had a couple ideas, but nothing solid. And so I tried some things out with the group, briefly, one rehearsal. And then I pulled an all-nighter. I was on co-op at the time. I stayed up all night, just like a maniac, just kind of doing the choreo by myself in my room with a mirror, and just furiously writing stuff down.
And envisioning those criminals in a crime show that have the thing, and then there's the map on the wall. That's what I'm
with
envisioning.
Insane person. And it all kind of in my exhaustion induced state, it all worked out. But it's funny. I'll let you keep playing, but I do have one thing of note, for like the cyclone choreo at the very end, it was
Yeah.
a slightly a funny story behind that as well. But we can keep going.
I was actually gonna add, like before we keep going, like what was kind of your mindset of like how you're gonna set the table solo wise?
As in being one of like the opening soloists.
Yeah,
So
right.
I mean, thankfully, Anthony kind of spearheaded. He spears, first of all, a huge fan of Anthony's.
Yeah.
Also one of my closest friends. He's so talented, such a pillar, and it was so calming to have him be the first voice heard on stage.
Yeah.
And that kind of sets you in place. But I mean, yeah, there's a lot of pressure as the first soloist to not mess things up.
Mhm.
And you certainly feel that in the moment. But I kind of have in the choreo, we start off on stage and then in the center, and then Anthony starts and the group starts. At one moment, I squat and I dip down in the back so that when the group moves, it's kind of like this reveal moment. And in that space, I try to just like slow my breathing and calm all these thoughts. I'm just
Yeah.
thinking about the starting pitch
Yeah.
and
Like relax
and
yourself.
also
and get into
thinking like you've done this how many hundreds of times in rehearsal. Just
Yeah.
enjoy this moment. Don't black out. Just like sell it. Be present in the performance. But it's scary and stressful, and I think it's always, you could be an experienced soloist or not, and it's always going to be kind of a frightening thing. And luckily,
sure.
Clow was there, having it be a duet to start the piece off, and having that interaction component, and actively being able to interact with a good friend.
Yeah.
Really saves the day, I think.
Yeah.
Totally.
We started, baby, not what I expected. 'Cause all I ever wanted was some fun. Before we started, baby, I used to look for exits. All I ever wanted was some fun. Never meant to fall in love. Never meant to fall in love. Never meant to fall in love. Never meant to fall in love.
So Cheyenne, I know I talk about with choreography, it's really important that you listen for different parts in the arrangements and try to find ways to showcase those differences and to expose those
Right.
moments. And
Mhm.
Cheyenne, the way it was arranged, it lent itself to that process so easily. There's all these moments where there's like a male part feature or a female part feature, or there's a
Mhm.
difference in vibe or pace and cadence. And that's what made Cheyenne choreography both challenging but also so rewarding, is because there was all these moments where I thought, oh, I can showcase our incredible women's section, and then I can have the men come through and forward and be there, and then the women come through again and have these different vibes throughout.
Yeah.
But listening for those differences and those moments that you can expose with the choreo to enhance the arrangement, I think Cheyenne is a perfect example of how one could do that. So yes.
Look at what we started, oh yeah. Look at what we started, look at what we started. No, look what we started, baby, not what I expected. No, I can't stop thinking about you every day. No, I can't stop.
Can you do all the choreo now?
I
I want to see it live.
Oh no,
That'll read great on a podcast.
it's ingrained in your head. You can't
Yeah.
not, at least for me anyway. I see every person's move
Associated
because
with the move.
we've taught it over and over.
Yeah.
You stopped at a great time, because this is the onset of what I call the cyclone. And this was so I knew I wanted Creeks to be in circles, and so I knew I had to end Cheyenne in circles and have it be natural, but I also wanted this chaos and this motion and this energy. So I thought, oh no, I need to figure out this kind of kinetic, active choreography, which we as Nor'easters have never really done in the past. That's
Yeah.
something that I look at the Vassar Devils or even Voices in Your Head, and
Right.
they have incredible, kinetic, complex choreography, and I admire that
Mhm.
so much, and they execute it so perfectly. And this was kind of our first take at something like that, and it was a little stressful, but there's a funny story here because I knew where I wanted certain individuals to be placed for creeks. So I knew that after all this motion, I needed certain people to be in certain locations, both for them being just incredible performers and to have it be spread out, boy, girl, like all that jazz. So I had where I wanted people to land,
Yeah.
but I had to figure out, where people started from. And so moving into the cyclone, there's this moment where kind of choreography just it crumbles down, and I have the group kind of chaotic, and then they end up being in two lines, and they have this one move, and then those two lines then actively go into the cyclone. And that was a moment that I thought, okay, so I can use this transition in order to scramble everyone and put them in the order they need to be. But the funny story comes with I wanted to figure out how fast the group could walk. And I need to, figure out the timing of, okay, if they start the cyclone here and all these things are happening and then they stop moving the cyclone, where are people going to ultimately land so that I can then place them at the onset so that they end up where they need to be. And of course, I have STEM major myself. I was like, oh, I'll just use math. I can't do this without any sort of calculations. And so I was taking out, all that like 2 pi r, all that jazz. And I had the group, I'm not joking here, I had the group walk in circles. This was before I even had the choreo set in stone. I had everyone just walk in circles, like running around, and I was timing people to see how long the average rotation was. And I was trying to then time, with tempo, how many rotations would the group have between the start of the section to the end, and then put those people and then backtrack and then make the line so that based on the number of steps. And it worked relatively well. Some people had to, walk a little faster, slower, or fidget to get in the right spots.
Yeah.
But I wish I was joking. I pulled out geometry and
That's
algebra
amazing.
to try to get a better estimate of where I'd have to start people off and then move and then switch. And it was probably so extra, but I
need to
just
go
remember having
rewatch this
so much.
now
I
and see.
had a timer in rehearsal. And I
Yeah.
was trying to, if it takes this many seconds for these people, and I was like, okay.
Like everyone's heart rate is like pumping, and you're like, okay, how fast
that was
can
one
I
of the
go?
challenges too, is people have to be able to, in the middle of the line, pivot, change directions, and also maintain the lines of the song while you're kind of huffing it on stage. And so we had to find the right speed. It was a process, and it all kind of came together that sleepless night. But I just have a very prominent memory of that moment occurring.
I'm sure your elementary school geometry teacher is very proud of you.
I was like, who's this crazy person?
That's how they're using when I taught them. I also think cyclone is a perfect name for that. too.
Oh, you should hear. There's so many funny names that I as choreographer like deems or informations. Like party triangle is the first chorus where it's like the two groups are on either side. I call that party triangles. Even though it's not really you're kind of maybe macro a triangle, but you're missing a side there, but it's just the groups facing each other. And now whenever that formation comes up again in any other song, I'm just like, okay, this is like OG party triangles. Everyone like the situation or the form. And those little names like kind of come up as you go. I'm sure this happens all
Like
the time with
easy to
choreography, and
reference,
you reference the spot, and it may sound totally inane, but the group knows what you're talking about, which is all that matters. But it's so funny, yeah.
I'm curious if you because in the first episode you had mentioned that you didn't really have any formal dance experience, but when you are putting this together, are you just pulling from the music? Is there any visual art or other groups, or what are you pulling from?
So yes. So between quarters and semis, I really had a change in mindset. Because I acknowledge no formalized dance, really anything. But I think coming from quarterfinals, I thought to myself, okay, this is crunch time, and I have to trust myself. The choreography and some of the numbers I did for quarterfinals was solid, and I'm pulling some of that over, and I worked with other people for some of the other numbers, and it worked well, but it didn't fit as well with the group, and it didn't sit perfectly, and it wasn't exactly what we wanted. And I was like, you know what? I think I can do this. I think I have the potential. And it came from just believing in myself. And so I think that was a huge part of the fuel. And then external things I was pulling from, to be honest, I watched a lot of the old Nor'easters footage. I really tried not to look at any other group's choreo because I knew that, you know how it happens. It just it comes in by accident. I wanted it to be unique. I wanted I didn't want it to look like it was copied from anyone else. And so I tried my hardest to only pull from the music. What is the energy here? What is the emotion? What do I need to emphasize? And I think that's why I feel that the choreo in our set really it's paired, it's wedded so closely with the music, and I think it really they work so well together. And I think it's because that's the only thing I allowed myself to pay attention to. But no, I didn't pull from. Of course, honestly, for external resources, I asked the group, and I think that's the most important thing at any leadership position. If I ever had any doubts with myself, or I thought, is this gonna look hokey? Is this gonna look silly? Right away, I reached out. I taught it. Sometimes it was before I taught it, or even in the moment, I would teach something, and I was like, okay, guys, do you like this? Does it work? What are your thoughts? Any suggestions? And having that open dialogue with the group members, so refreshing and so informative and so helpful, because they know what they want to do. They know what their body is experiencing and feeling, what emotions are going through when they're singing something. And if it works, and they feel it. And if it doesn't, they know, and then they'll tell you that. And then being receptive to them and being able to be flexible and changing things on the spot or taking that criticism, so important. So it was mostly the music, and then listening to the group, really just being receptive to them and their ideas and changing as need be. And it all kind of worked out. And to be honest, I hate to even say it, but sometimes I've found that some of the best stuff comes from those panicky final hours before you need to teach choreography, and you're like, oh, I just need something. I need to put something on paper. What's the first thing that comes to my head? Boom. For example, Who's That Girl, which I think most like funky. I love that choreo for that piece. That was done last minute, kind of like the day before. I was like, oh no, like this song is so different. I need something creative and new, and I have no idea what I'm gonna do with this. And I just like, okay, we're gonna do guys are different than the girls. I'm just gonna like hide the guys and like expose the girls, and then it just kind of came together. But it was one of those panic fueled last minute things, and it works out. But sometimes putting yourself under that pressure, you get sometimes, not always for everyone, you get something that maybe
really
isn't
good.
worthwhile. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's like you can tell when you watch it that like that the moves serve a function and a purpose, because I feel like it's super easy. Like I just judged an ICCA last night, and like it's super easy to be like, wouldn't it be cool if we did X here, but like it doesn't necessarily serve the function of the music or whatever you're trying to say, getting to the next thing, etc.
I agree, and I think it is. Sometimes it's easy to get carried away, especially once you start getting comfortable with choreography. You're like, oh, this is awesome. This would look great. But ultimately coming back to, can people still sing while they do this? And what does it bring to the set? Is it additive? Is it really going to bring out something? And if it doesn't, then sometimes you have to cut it, because it's always about something. I find this a lot with squats. We like to do like squat cascades. We're still kind of doing drops. Even now in our current choreography repertoire. And at this, I'm always thinking like, okay, who's singing what here? What note are the sopranos singing? Can I feasibly ask them to sustain something while dropping to the ground? In between, exactly, because in between even Who's That Girl in intro, everyone drops and exposes Sophia, Megan, and Anthony, but altos, or rather mezzos, are maintaining notes at the same time in the background, and that was a big thing too. Asking like, okay, is this even feasible? How can we figure out how to drop you guys while you maintain, your alignment to sing? And it worked out in the end, and they practiced a lot, and they're so incredible. But it's a challenge if you think about the fact that everyone still needs to sing during these numbers.
You're like having like toning sessions after. You're like, we need to get our bodies ready so we can sing this and also do this move. But yeah, I feel like your just mindset as a choreographer, you're very deliberate in what you want and very considerate of everyone else in the group, and that really pays off. And obviously, like in ICCA, you got that award, so it was definitely all worth it. And I mean, you guys went to win ICCA, and then from there went to the Aca Open, so that's a whole other beast and a whole other animal. So what was that choreo-wise? What was that like transition like?
I have to say it was just such a privilege and honor even to make it to finals, because ultimately the Nor'easters, our goal really deep down, it was never to win. Because we know how hard it is to get to finals. Like, that is a feat in itself. We were more nervous for semis, I think, than any other part of this competition process.
Yeah.
So we were so proud to make it to finals, and of course so ecstatic and so honored to ultimately win. And then going to Aca Open, that was just the cherry on top.
Right.
This is the first time that the champions of ICCA were entering into this brand new competition.
Yeah.
And of course, we didn't change anything in the set. We kept the same choreo, same music. We just brushed up on it. But what a treat it was just to bring back our graduated seniors, having that moment again to experience that set with them and bring them back in. But really, just the opportunity to perform at Carnegie Hall, once in a lifetime opportunity. And that was, we knew we were just so lucky and so honored, and to be surrounded by such incredible talent. Just people from all over the world were in the Aca Open, and everyone was just mind blowing. Professional groups, groups that just like came together and auditioned on a win. It was. It really was speechless.
Yeah.
And then just sharing that stage with everyone, and then being in that gorgeous, gorgeous theater. We were just ecstatic, and we were so fortunate and lucky to come in second. But we were not expecting to place at all. Again, like we went there and we're just like, this is such an opportunity. For me, it's like the zenith of my collegiate a cappella experience. Like, you can't go any farther than that. And it was, I still get chills. And of course, being able to take home an award that evening as well, and have, I believe it was Amanda Newman called my name, and have, my name echo around Carnegie Hall was just,
it's still echoing.
It's just unreal. It was,
that's
it
awesome.
was crazy.
And we were lucky to see it live, and it was great.
That's what I remember. At one point, did I point? I feel like at one point I definitely saw you guys, and I like waved. I feel, and I don't know if that remember that happening.
And like, I think, not to butter your bread, but just like, it shows that the Nor'easters are kind of functionally, in my view, basically a professional group.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Definitely
that you're able to place right after Woman of the World is like insane.
Amazing.
Y'all have been able to kind of maintain a brand and push it forward for so long. How do you, one, find the time, as with all the science and math and everything, and I'm sure everybody has something different, to stay as committed as is necessary for what people expect of the Nor'easters? Let's start with that.
Oh, what a question. Well, I have to say, so much work is done by our officers. They really, when they step up to the position, it's a full-time job. It truly is. They do so much work for us. They actively are making these decisions about branding or about music. Pick your topic. And then I'm a choreographer. I'm not even an officer, and that still takes up, of course, a lot of time. But to answer your question, I don't know, because looking back, I really don't know. I think we have a lot of support from our alumni. We have a lot of passion, a lot of motivation within the group. And we, when we have auditions, point blank, we tell people this group is a commitment. It is a lot of work. However, it will change your life. Like, this will be an experience unlike anything you've ever had. But you work for it, and I think part of it might be fear. At this point, there's this mantle sometimes I feel that we carry, and that it kind of drives you to maintain this image. But I don't know. It's just you end up prioritizing things. I know sometimes you pull an all-nighter, or you didn't study as much as you wanted to for that exam, and everyone at one point, I've noticed, at least on the Nor'easters, has made that choice and made that decision, because at the end of the day, this family and this group and the music we do and the experiences we all share together, it's otherworldly. And I think everyone recognizes that and then is willing to invest in it. But I don't know. I don't know how it all gets together. It still blows my mind that we're going to be traveling this semester, and that kind of fell into place. And I don't know. I think at the end of the day, we try to be true to ourselves. We know how we sing. We know how we want to feel, and we try to keep that. We don't try to mess with that, because we know we have something that's really special there. And I think people are receptive to it, and that's how we're able to, if anything, maintain that quote unquote brand that is the Nor'easters, I guess.
Right. And you did have your album Collective Volume 1 that came out in December. So that's just another thing that I think ties everything together and is just so consistent with your sound and obviously with your ICCA set. From your perspective, what was that sort of process like in putting that together?
It was so... we were so fortunate that we could have this set that we had such an incredible experience with and then get it on tracks and get it on an album so that we could have that physically and, you know, be able to reference back to it and listen to it. That was so important to us to be able to have it on there. And even the artwork on the front, I'm not sure, there's allusions to the circles and creeks and how collective, you know, connotations of community and coming together as a group. And we all felt that sense of community and love and family going into that ICCA season. And so that album, of course, has so much love. That's our ICCA set and just all this work we put into it. And it was a lot of fun. We were just so happy we were able to release that. And we're looking forward to Volume 2. We're hoping to get that out this semester as well. New content. Really exciting. It's kind of the step forward post ICCA and what we're looking forward to in the future. But I think any group can agree with this. Getting an album and listening to your tracks and your songs professionally recorded and mastered and mixed, and now having that, you know, accomplishment, having that physical thing you can listen back to and say, oh, I remember my part here. I all these memories I had learning this song and performing it. Having that down in a space is just so rewarding. I think you get it. And you also kind of feel so special. Like you can go on Spotify and listen to your group. You kind of feel a little bit famous at the same time. It's a really cool experience.
Nominated for cars for Beck's Miss Collegiate Solo, etc., etc. Every time it's like the Nor'easters have done all that they can do. It's like you zig when they expect you to like zag, right? Like you'll win a final, you go to a final, you'll be on Singing On, you'll do whatever, you'll make an album, and then now you're going to London and Hong Kong on a tour. How did that come together? How are you preparing?
Which are like back to back coming on the scene.
We are back to back. It's like 3 days apart as when we land and leave again. That kind of came out of nowhere. So, we really wanted to travel for the past 5 years. I kid you not. Since I've gone into the group, it's been on the back burner. We really wanted to do something international. And it all started to fall into place in the fall. The UK we constructed that tour. We saw, okay, spring break, we're gonna do this then. So much planning, so much work went into planning of that trip. Same officers who we were, you know, under through the ICCA experience, kind of at the forefront of that planning process. And we reached out to all the friends that we've made internationally through ICCA and just through hosting groups. You know how that all kind of comes together. And so that took a lot of work, a lot of planning, and that's happening now. Less than a week, we're leaving for that. That was the UK, and then Hong Kong. I can't even answer that question because that dropped out of the sky.
Really?
It came out of the blue. We got an email from the Hong Kong International Acapella Festival coordinators in December, and they were essentially invited us, told us like, this is the opportunity. We'll pay for X, Y, and Z. Get back to us in 2 days. Say yes or no. And we were all just like, what? You know, what is this? This is unreal. And it's a little scary because for those of us not on co-op right now, we're missing up to potentially, for some of us, 2 full weeks of classes, you know, where and this going back into the sacrifices you make. I know some of us are leaving at different times, depending on, you know, whatever factors, but that really came out of the blue. And we really hemmed and hawed it because it's a huge commitment.
Right.
And we did not expect it.
Yeah.
But ultimately we thought, okay, in 5 years, looking back, will we regret that we didn't accept this? And when you look at it through that perspective, we're like, oh, of course, we have to say yes. Like this is, we can't not do this.
Once in a lifetime opportunity.
So again, it's a huge honor. We are so flattered, and we're so very excited to go over there and perform and master class all these other international school groups and just perform for the city. It really hasn't hit me yet because we've been, of course, gearing up for these tours this entire semester. We've been rehearsing nonstop, choreo and music. We're all so exhausted. And now that we're leaving for the first leg of the trip in less than a week, it still doesn't feel like a reality. And the fact that we're going halfway around the world, I still don't believe that that's actually, I don't, you're lying to me. Yeah. So we're going to Hong Kong. I'll let you know how that goes.
Did you have to what like prep things did you have to do for this? Like new choreo, new songs, what sort of stuff did you have to work on?
So we of course are preparing new songs for part 2 of the album.
Mhm.
But new choreo, so this is fun. So this little choreo is always like a mind puzzle. It's a little like a mind teaser. So this is welcome to this reality. So fancy this. We have certain people who are going to the first leg of the tour,
Uh-huh.
and then this other bunch of people going to the second leg of the tour. So our sets are slightly different for each tour, but for the overlapping songs, you have to design every formation so that it can accommodate both different types of people.
Oh.
And the best part is the numbers are different,
Ooh.
and the soloists switch around. So for every, so I know, right? It sounds fun and also terrifying at the same time. So the past couple of weeks, it's kind of reminds me of the quarter to semifinals transition, where you have a limited amount of time. We're learning new songs concurrently, and of course, it's best to fully learn the song before we teach the choreo. It just makes the process so
And
much
you're
easier.
the main choreo point person
Yes.
for this, right?
However,
Okay.
I am starting to potentially train someone right now.
Nice.
I don't want to say her name just in case she ultimately doesn't want the position, but I think there's so much promise in the group, and it's really exciting. It's passing the torch and trying to pass on all this stuff that we've learned over time. But
Yeah.
anyway, so for any given song, it's kind of, I have a love-hate relationship with this dotted X. So when I do choreography, everyone's an X on paper, and then I have this dotted dashed X, which is the X that will both be there and not be there depending on the tour. And I have, so for every given formation, depending on, I have to say like, okay, so Tyler, you're here for this tour, but you have to fill in this gap, which will be exposed when this person's missing, because it's been a whirlwind. We've had crash choreo sessions, and of course everyone's so busy, so a lot of times we have a lot of group members absent. It's just a busy time of the year. We're all trying to catch up on homework that we'll be missing for the Hong Kong tour.
Yeah.
So it's been, and of course cold and flu season. So it's all of that mixed together. But I just finished teaching the final choreography for the songs yesterday, and I think it's coming. It looks solid. So we're at this point now. I'm starting to get excited, less nervous, more excited just to polish.
Yeah.
But talking about choreography under pressure, and just having everything come into place. But I'm excited just because some of our songs from ICCA we're putting in the set, the two different sets, because we'll be performing for audiences who've maybe never seen us before, who've certainly never seen us live before. So bringing back some old stuff, and then the new songs as well, and kind of exploring that space. And now that I feel a little bit more emboldened with my choreo and more confident, bringing in some maybe interesting new choices, some newer things. It's been fun. It's been a little wild though, but really exciting stuff.
Yeah, so this is your last year in the group, which is nuts and crazy. Before we get to that, what are you hoping to accomplish with your final concerts and this tour, and like what are you hoping to leave with the group?
Oh, what a question. So, I mean, personally, I just hope for these remaining, the tour and our final shows, the senior concert, in April, May, which will actually coincide with Boner. So it'll be a busy night. I want to be present and just actively be there in the music and with the group and just have fun on stage and enjoy performing, because who knows when that will happen again,
Right.
Yeah.
So just selfishly kind of just be in that moment and really soak in every given second. And then a little bit of a macro image. I would love, if this is why I'm kind of, potentially taking someone underneath my wing, I'd love to make sure that everything that we've learned over the past couple of years and the work that I've done, I can pass that on.
Right.
And so, or at least make sure it's in good hands, and continue that sort of legacy. But ultimately, I just want the group to continue to perform its heart out. I think this is an opportunity, especially going abroad. There is a lot of pressure in a way, because yes, we're not competing, but it's almost, we want to sound and look our best for these audiences, and this is such what experience this is going to be, and we want to be proud of what we put on stage. And so I think I'm looking forward to, in these next couple months, just ultimately being proud of the work that we do. But I know for me, like, you can't top ICCA last year. You can't top singing at Carnegie. Traveling is just the fun kind of victory lap, I think, that comes. I'm very fortunate that my senior year is coinciding in this way.
Yeah.
It's kind of the fun goodbye, tour in a way,
soiree.
last lap. So I think I'm enjoying it and being present as a family member in the group and just enjoying a cappella while I'm still singing in a cappella.
Fun. I think we're sadly nearing the end of our episode today, but we were listening back to your first episode and kind of just listening back to the trends that you loved, and you kind of talked about groups taking risks and all of that and defining their own genre. So I kind of wanted to bring that back into the picture. For a year from our last episode, are those the same? Are they different? Where's your headspace in terms of what you love about acapella and what you want to see more of?
So I'm not as plugged in this year as maybe I was last year, kind of an ICCA season, but I still want to emphasize that point. I really think people recognizing what the group does best and capitalizing on it. One thing of note is watching Women of the World perform and seeing how a cappella can actively transform a space and bring up messages of just inclusion and love and community in still, I think, such a divisive time, and actively recognizing the power that comes with this type of music. You can't not acknowledge that. And so that's something I'm still always so excited to see. You always see people come together in music, and the messages people can deliver are just so heartfelt and incredible. So I think, I know it was kind of a life-changing thing to see Women of the World perform back in September. But yeah, just going forward, I think groups committing to the art and recognizing that this is an art form. This isn't just an extracurricular you do on the side. This is something that is unlike anything else. And acknowledging that and putting your heart and soul into it, I think is, I see it and I want to keep seeing it, I think recognizing that.
Yes. Snaps for that.
And so I'm not going to ask the question of what's going to happen next, because I know that's a stressful question upon graduation. But I think that there's probably a lot of people listening right now that would love to be in your shoes, either in the Nor'easters or, doing something akin, anywhere close to what y'all have accomplished. What advice would you have for like young incoming singers coming into high school groups, into college groups? What would you say to them?
I would say never give up and never be discouraged. I know for getting to where I am, it was a lot of trial and error. There was a lot of failures, a lot of setbacks. And you just got to keep your nose to the grindstone. And at the same time, ultimately, you have so much power and so much potential. For example, this choreography thing was thrown onto me a year ago, and I've never done it before, and I'm just lucky that I truly don't know why and how, but it worked out, and I think it was a lot of probably luck in there. But you have that potential. You can change your group. If you see a group and you're like, oh, I want to be in them, or I want to sing like them, I want to look like them, I wish I was in that situation. You do have the power to create that for yourself, and you could be the one that brings your group up to that standard. Like find that within you, and again, like you pull from it, pull from your passion. You're singing, you have ideas, you know what you want, and you can make that an active pursuit. So don't give up on that. Don't give up on those aspirations. I think just recognizing your own potential, and I think throughout this entire process, me especially, I have come to start to believe in myself and trust in myself and my decisions. And you should start, especially those entering high school and college. If you start as a freshman doing that, the world is your oyster, I think.
That's amazing. Ryan, we love you. Thank you
we
for
love you so
joining
much.
us again. It's like a cold, rainy day, but I just feel warm inside. You're so great. But we hope you join us next week for a new episode of Head Voice.
Without you.